Good morning, folks, and welcome back. So last time we ended this in a pretty interesting spot. Once the oil in the paint dries, you'll notice that things become a little bit more flat, maybe a little less contrasty as what they originally were. So that's one of the things that that we tackled today. Kind of bring that contrast back a little bit. As I was able to sit and let this dry and kind of observe it throughout the week, I noticed the tree line back here doesn't give me the distance that I wanted, even though when we put the sky in, we painted lower so that we went in and we put in, when we went and put in the tree line and mixed it with the paint, it did lighten it. And you can see how it is lightened in here in some areas. Versus some of the other areas where we maybe had omitted that so that it wouldn't mix. And it did give a bit of that depth that we were looking for, but I think we can push that a little bit more. So today what I want to do is I want to go in and through here, even in between these saplings that we have right here, between here, we'll lighten up those trees, and that's going to help bring this area here, this mid-ground area here forward a little bit. We'll push this back in the background. Bring that along through here, and then we'll add some additional contrast here. Darken this up here a little bit, maybe a little bit in here, and call it good. So it's not a whole lot that we have to do to this today. Overall, I think it looks really, really good. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is prep my area. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, I've got a soft filbert brush from Rosemary & Co. number 8. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip this into a mixture of linseed oil and some odorless mineral spirits. And what that's going to do, and I'm going to apply it on here in the areas that I'm going to apply paint, just to kind of prep the canvas a little bit. So you don't need a whole lot. You don't want this to be runny or anything. But in the areas that I'm going to prep or apply paint, I'm just going to prep. Just a little bit. Now, again, before you even do this, your painting has to be dry, absolutely dry. And the steps that we took the last time, remember when I prepped the canvas, I put a coat of Liquid Original on it. Some of this stuff right here. That's a thin coat over the whole thing. So then when I go to apply the paint, it mixes with the liquid on the canvas instead, and then I don't have to mix it on my palette. And I've done that for the last few times, and I've had good results with it. I haven't had anything to complain about. I was worried that maybe it would dry too quickly, or it wouldn't. Maybe it would crack when I go to put other layers on top of it. No, it's worked out really well, and I think it's allowed me to be a little bit more frugal with the liquid, because the stuff's not necessarily cheap. And just use what I need. Just because I'm not exactly sure where it's all going to go here. There. There. I think we're prepped pretty good. Now I use a filbert brush. You can use any kind of brush. You can use a flat dagger. It doesn't really matter. The point is getting the oil medium on the canvas just to help prep it a little bit. And again, you just need a little bit. You don't need it so much that it's that it's running down or anything like that. So just keep that in mind as you're applying this stuff. So now I'm just going to use just a couple of colors. I'm going to use, I want to use this pinky white. So I'm going to use titanium white and permanent red. So titanium white. I've got Bob Ross's permanent red. I don't use a whole lot of this. So this is still my original tube from a couple of years ago. It's so strong, you don't need a lot. So I'm going to use the titanium white and just a smidge of the permanent red. You can use cadmium red. You can use you can use alizarin crimson. You can use whatever. Use the same red as what you used in the sky. So I want to use that for here to knock that tree line back. And then for the deeper shadows, I'm going to use a little bit of a mix of sap green, this stuff here, some Prussian blue, and some Payne's gray. I'm going to use those for the dark shadows that I want to add. The blue because it really brings out the richness of the dark, and it cools it off a little bit. I say cool. I feel that Prussian blue is a warmer blue. It feels like it has a tinge of red in it, but it's still the deepness, the richness of the pigment will help bring out some of the darks, the dark darks that I want. And that's mainly going to be towards the front or the bottom of the canvas, because remember, as things come towards you, the viewer, the more contrasting that they're going to be. And being more contrasting, darks are going to be darker, lights are going to be lighter, as versus the things that are farther away. Hence the reason why we're going to add that pinky white to the tree line to push it back. You're going to be removing a lot of that contrast. All right, I just went in. I got a flat brush, probably like a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch brush. It's a number 7 long flat. And so I'm just going to, I dilute it just a tiny bit with my medium, my linseed oil, odorless mineral spirits. And all I'm going to do is just come in here and put this stuff on here. And you're going to think, wow, that's really, you're just screwing this up. No, what's going on? We're going to take some of this off. So it's easier to blend it out. You'll see. We'll just put this on here. And then we can take off what we don't want. And remember, depending on the paints that you use, you may or may not want to use your fingers to come in direct contact with them. Some paints are a little bit more harmful, cadmiums and cobalts to be more specific. But for the most part, oils aren't very harmful. Just don't eat them, don't ingest them. And then I can stop there, and I can use that as a plane to kind of bring this section forward and push that section back. Now you're like, whoa. You've got a lot of stuff going on here. How are we going to fix this? Well, you can do it a couple ways. You can rinse your brush and you can just blend it out. And I can show you. I'm just taking a filbert brush. and you can just swirl it out. Wipe off your brush when you start to get too much paint, and just start blending. Another thing that you can do is just take a paper towel and just start wiping off what you don't want. And then blend out the edges. Real nice. You have to switch out your paper towel, otherwise you'll end up, once you get enough paint on it, you'll just be pushing paint around and you won't be removing anything. So you want to make sure that you turn it, remove it. Turn it to remove paint, otherwise, like I said, you're just pushing paint around. So just do a little bit, and just wipe it off. Now you're not scrubbing, don't scrub. Just wipe, just like that, just wipe. Find a new place on the paper towel, and just wipe. Want to be careful, like some of these places here, I had some little thick globs of paint. So that's one thing you have to be careful with this style. If you have a buildup of paint and you go to do some glazing like this, you're going to have a tendency to build up around that. So take a little bit of extra time and care when you come to those areas. And if you have to get in with a brush to kind of help, well, I had a little bit extra. Okay, we come in with a dry brush. I had some extra odorless mineral spirits on there when I rinsed it. Okay, so you come in with a dry brush and you can kind of get in those little cracks and crevices that were generated by the buildup of paint on your canvas. See, so I do it wrong to teach you how to do it right. Just wipe, just wipe, just wipe. And then here we can come up here into the sky a little bit, kind of bring the white that we had up into the sky. Just a little bit. And you can see that haze is really pushed that tree line back right there. And then any of this stuff that we need to darken, like we'll probably want to darken up the trunks of those trees right there. Make sure that that works out so that it reads. We can go back in and add any additional foliage that we need as the trees come down. You know, so we can make sure that those saplings stay in front of that hazy background. Okay, so I think, at least for right now, I think that tree line looks pretty good. Maybe just ever so softly blend it in with the ground a little bit, just a little bit, just like that. Okay, let's see what we do here. Again, I'm just taking this sap green, Payne's gray, and Prussian blue, and just going to come in here and put in some, kind of deepen these shadows a bit. I think you need a little bit more sap green, a little too blue. This down here I'm going to use a different brush for. Yeah, I think this is the only time I'm going to use this brush for up there. I want to be able to maintain some texture, so I'm going to use my bigger brush here. This is probably like a 1.5 inch brush. Looks like it's 250 millimeters. Just some generic brush, natural bristle. You can get it from a hardware store. Nothing fancy. I really like the textures that it gives. Yeah, so I'm just blocking in some dark right now. And then we'll go in and we'll fix that up some. Just putting it on there. Just put it on there. Who cares? We just want some color. We just want some dark on there. Remember your light sources here. This is the brightest part of the painting, or at least over here, because we have this glow in the trees, which is kind of insinuating that behind there is a higher brightness, a higher luminosity that's kind of coming through here. So we're kind of insinuating that the light source is over here somewhere. So which means that if you have shadows, make sure that they're going to go away from that light source. It's like, do they need to come out, this way at all? A little bit of run, but that's okay. Because what we're going to do now is the same thing that we did before when we put in the grass textures and such. We're just going to take a paper towel, crumble it up, and dab. Dab just a little bit. The objective here isn't, well, it's a twofold objective. One, we're going to try and put a little bit of texture in, let some of the other canvas of the color that we had on there before kind of shine through. The other is we're kind of blending. So, and just make the brush that you need out of this paper, and then just let it, just work it, just let it happen. Again, we're not scrubbing on this at all. You just wipe, dab, be gentle with it. If you rub too hard, you do take a risk of removing some of the color because of how it was put on. It was put on relatively thin. So it doesn't take much to take that color off. And you don't want to do that. So you can see there we've added a bit of depth and deepness into there, just making that pushed back into there. It stands in contrast with what we've gone on over here. So it really adds that sense of, I got a mistiness that's happening. So then we're just going to do that, find a new clean spot on our paper towel. We're going to come down in here and we want to try, because this is a little bit more in the foreground, right? So we want to be able to maintain a little bit more of that texture. See, so it gets dirty. We just find a new place. We want to maintain a little bit of that texture, so we're just blend it. Again, we're trying to deepen some shadow areas, add some visual interest and contrast. So here we have like a nice hard edge, which makes this light part want to come forward and the dark part come behind it, which is good. So I'm not going to try to blend out that edge. I will, however, try to blend this edge over here. again, I was standing there for a while on that same piece of paper towels because I was moving the paint around. I wasn't necessarily trying to remove it. Now, if I just go in with a new piece and dab, 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 I'm removing, which is fine. Absolutely fine. Eventually, you just have to get a new paper towel. This one's getting kind of saturated. And now we have a nice bunch of paint, wet paint that's built up. If you want to go and mimic some of the earlier textures that we've done, if you want to add some more like stringy grassy areas, fine flying grassy areas, just take a paper towel and wind it to a nice tight taper. And aggressively attack the canvas. Just whip it. Wherever you think you need it. Just soften some of the areas. I'm just lightly just kind of swirling it about. I'm not doing too much here to the center section. And the reason being is because it's a mid-ground area and I want the contrast there to not be so harsh. And you can kind of unify it just by bringing in some of the paper towel that you've been using. Maybe find a wet spot that's already on your paper towel, something like that. And just bring a little bit in, not a whole lot. Again, this is the mid-ground area, so you don't want to make it too contrasted because then it starts to fight with the foreground. And you're trying to differentiate between the foreground, midground, and background areas. Okay, then one of the last things that we're going to do is I'm going to take my rigger brush. A rigger brush is a long, thin bristle brush which holds a lot of paint. So if I load that up and I just lightly touch the canvas and just let it come up. And we start to replace some of that dark that maybe we painted over. And then I'm going to go back to the smaller texture brush that I got. And just adding some contrast and to kind of pull it away from the background a little bit. Being careful not to create tangents. What I mean by tangent is where one thing starts and another thing stops. You don't want those things to connect, the edges to connect. So either start short or break it. I mean, you want to break that tangent. You start short or go long, but don't let those connection pieces just kind of sit there on each other. And then just like before, we can put some texture in, dab, dab, dab. Just kind of blending the base with that undergrowth right there. I want that to be similar in value. So we'll just add a little bit of paint here and there. Not too much more needs to be done to this, I don't think. You can see where we've added rolls and depth to this hill here in the front, added that contrast, deepened the shadows, both in the background here, letting this cool blue contrast with the warm yellows and reds and pinks here up on top. Kind of gives the idea of the warmth here and then the cool shadows underneath. And then, and like I said, we push this tree line way back to give that illusion of that illusion of depth. And we just remove. I try not to scrub. I mean, I'm rubbing a circular motion, but I'm very gentle. I'm very gentle with it. Then let it fall off gradually in a nice gradient, so that this here is the furthest point back, and these dark pieces here are a nice contrast to that light, which really brings it forward and allows it to read much better than what it was. It was fighting with it before, fighting with the background. So the only thing I have left to do is sign it, and then I'll wait for this to dry and varnish it. I think we'll be good to go. So I've got other tutorials, not tutorials per se. I've got other process paintings like this on my channel. Feel free to check those out. I've got some speed painting things that I may revisit, some watercolor stuff, maybe some acrylic things. Feel free to check out the rest of my channel and see if there's something else on there that maybe speaks to you. Or maybe you have another question. Leave a comment, ask a question, and I will be happy to either demonstrate an answer or just tell you, depending what the case may be. Hope you like this video. Go ahead and click that like button, subscribe, and I will have more content for you next week. Thanks. Bye.